Hello and welcome to this week's video. My name is Louise and today we're going to look at a new Daniel Smith paint, Ultramarine Turquoise, which my parents very kindly picked up from me from Fred Aldous in Leeds when they were visiting my eldest son this week. I didn't realise Fred Aldous sold Daniel Smith paint, so that was super exciting. And they picked a really lovely colour. It mixes so nicely with other paints that I've got. So I decided to fill up two pans, one to go in my Daniel Smith palette and one to go in my everyday fun palette, as I call it. I'm not the best at filling up these little pans. I think you're supposed to do a tiny bit, smooth it out with a toothpick, but I don't want to waste the paint, so I just squeeze in a little bit, let it dry, and then use the paint from there. But I was so excited to use it, I didn't leave it to dry, and I do make a little bit of a mess with it, but no paint was massively wasted. So yes, as I say, I use a range of paints from, budget range to Daniel Smith, and I do like the colours in the Daniel Smith ranges, but they are a little bit out of my budget. So I decided to update my swatch cards so I don't forget which colour is where, because it can get a little bit confusing. This is a particularly messy palette. It's got some lovely colours in though. I then decided to swatch out the paint in my Caddy Fat book, which is where I experiment with paints, sort of create new colour palettes. This is where it goes a little bit messy, and I somehow managed to get absolutely loads on my brush and all over my hands. And then I decided to mix it with some Opera Rose, I think that is, and also some sap green, and I got some really lovely colours for this. Slightly off page, some of it, unfortunately. It does make a nice orange, the sap green and the pink, as well as the purples with the ultramarine turquoise. So I've sped the next bit up a little bit, and I have masking taped off 4 small pieces of Arches paper. It's the cold pressed, and I decided to squirt one of them and just let's see where the paint sort of went. Using quite a big brush, try and make some sort of organic looking leaf shapes, dropping in blobs of different colours. And then this sheet, I haven't wet the paper first, just to see the difference. My 100-day challenge is really about exploring with the paint, using different techniques, and I'm really enjoying sort of loose brushwork. Trying to get your flowers to look organic can be quite tricky. Sometimes I just spray water onto the paper to loosen it up, or if I feel like I've made a mistake, spray it with water and rub it out, really. But these were really fun to do. It was a nice exercise, like just warming up on a morning. I'm just seeing, I've moved to a smaller brush here to try and get some more organic leaf shapes. I do struggle with leaves sometimes. It's something I've practiced quite a bit in my Caddy Fat book, is doing petal shapes and leaf shapes over and over again. So I think I'll let that dry now. And because I was trying to do this really quickly, I did dry it with the hairdryer, where I think it's probably best to let it dry naturally if you can. So I really struggled to fit everything into frame. So this is the bottom 2. I just masking tape my paper onto the back of like an A2 sheet of pad of paper. Very high tech around here. Use what you have. So I was going for sort of loose tulips on this one, but I loved that colour, the sap green and the opera rose made. In fact, I really like the colours of this one. I could have just left it there, but I do go back in, which may or may not have been a good idea. Sometimes with watercolours I can really love them when they're wet, and when they're dry I think, oh, it's looking a bit dull, and then I go back in and I can often overwork them. But not feeling precious about the paper, letting the brush move, dance about, blobbing in colours, spraying when I want to. If I didn't like something, just dab it out there, go back in when it's dry. I'm enjoying the freedom of watercolours, how they bleed into each other and the colours mix. Now I'm just flicking some paint on, getting more texture. So we're dry now. So I hadn't done much on this top one before it's dried, but it's a lovely layer. This is me probably thinking, oh, what am I going to do? Yep, we're going in with some pink flowers. I do think sap green and not ultramarine, sap green and pink has to be one of my favourite combinations of colours. I didn't like how the ultramarine turquoise worked in that pink flower. But again, it's experiment, isn't it? You don't know until you try something what is going to work and what doesn't. And I'm really loving that for the 100-day project. What are we going to do now? Oh, we're using a big textured brush to bring in a little bit of texture. Again, some really lovely colours appearing. Yeah, I didn't like that there was just 2 flowers. I thought, oh, that's looking a bit awkward. It's always best to have an odd number of flowers. So I'm just darkening up some areas. Looks like I'm using a round brush now, maybe an 8 or a 10. Now I've darkened that flower up, I like it a little bit better. Oh, I'm putting some random blobs in. I'm just being quite intuitive with these, so that's probably why sometimes the flowers look a bit awkward or not too natural. I think big leaves is something I struggle with. I have to practice big leaves looking more natural. I love watching the paint blend into the water. It's a lot of wet and wet. And I do really like this tulip one. Oh, then I started to add in some random flower shapes, buds or something. So I am showing this at double speed, I think it said. I'm using iMovie to edit, which is the first time I've used iMovie, so we'll see how that goes. I do paint quite fast, but not quite this fast. Now I'm using a little bit of cardboard just to create a bit of texture on this one. I thought it was looking a bit flat with the flowers being so big. Trying to create some contrast and movement. And I think I felt like I'd done too much, so I wanted to lighten that bit up a bit. Oh, and then I just go mad with the water spray. It's funny watching it back. I would just think, oh, wish I'd darkened some of the flowers up a little bit more now. Struggling a bit with the foliage there. I think masses of foliage are very challenging, but I quite like how that top part's worked out. I do darken the flowers up. Yay! So now I'm just looking, seeing if there's anything else I want to change. So do come back in with some more final details, getting the centres of the flowers in. But as you can see, I'm keeping them really loose, very intuitive. But I'm really happy with the colours of these. It's made a lovely colour palette just using the three shades. I think when I use too many colours in my work, that's when it can get a bit muddy. And now I'm fiddling. Put the paintbrush down, Louise. Yep, darkening the centres. It does bring a bit more life to that flower. And that was it. So then I started to peel off. Probably best to wait for it to dry, but I was too impatient. I really like how this one turned out. I think that would make a lovely fabric if you could put it into a repeat. So that's a little bit off. There we go. I'm less happy with that one, I think. But I think as a collection of 4, I like working on 4 at the same time because then I don't overwork them. So yeah, I'm happy with how they came out, and it's meant that I have caught up on my 100-day project as well. So I hope you enjoyed watching my process of loose florals and seeing how the colours work together. So don't forget to give me a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Bye.